Planning Commission. What is the date today?
23rd.
23rd, okay, so it's October 23rd, 2025. And we'll start with the roll call. Craig, the chairman, is not here today. Chris Nagy, myself, vice chairman, I am here. We have Jennifer Peters.
Here.
Thomas Bartek.
Here.
Veronica Gress.
Here.
Shorav Kaushik.
Here.
Did I say it right?
Yeah,
and Alexandra. Did I say it right?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. Alexandra Janik.
Here.
Janjik. And that's all I have here. I have another member here. Do we get it? Is that everybody? Okay. All right, so then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. All right. All right, so we have any public comments? Don't have anybody else here, so we'll move on. The business items for today, we have the Rosen Grant conditional use and the Rosen Grant land development. And this is for the property on 3667 Route 378. And please, you can use the microphone there.
So, before we get started, what we have are two separate things but one project. So traditionally, there'd be the land development that would come before the Planning Commission for our review and comment and recommendations, and that's one portion of why they're here. The second portion is the project requires a conditional use. And the conditional use hearing is a hearing that's held before Township Council. But before it's held before Township Council, again, it comes before the Planning Commission again for recommendations and so on. So the idea would be at an upcoming meeting, they're going to have their full hearing on the conditional use, but it's an opportunity for us to provide our comments with regard to the use itself. You may recall, but we don't see a lot of these, a conditional use is something where it's permitted by zoning ordinance, but the municipality can impose conditions on it. So it's not by right in the sense of there's certain things that we can ask to be done or certain conditions that could be imposed, and that's something to consider. So when the time comes, it makes sense to have the applicant just tell us everything about the project all at once, but we'll probably have to take two separate motions, one with regard to the land development, one with regard to the conditional use. I hope that's helpful.
And in the order that it's
Pardon
in.
me, Molly.
I just wanted to say the conditional use, we do need to make a motion tonight because it's scheduled for November 5th for the conditional use hearing. The land development you can table or approve, whatever you want.
Okay.
In the order that it's here, the conditional use first, land development second, that makes sense?
Yeah, it doesn't matter what order you addressed it in.
Okay. All right, so we're at the conditional use.
Yeah, so I'm Tyler Freed from Meese Engineering. I'm the engineer for the project, and the applicant could not be here tonight. He is unfortunately on vacation, but he will be at the conditional use hearing with myself. So I have an exhibit here I'd like to hand out to you guys in addition to the plans.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this exhibit is just an aerial plan to give you guys an idea of where the site is in relation to the surrounding area. So this property that Mr. Rosengrant owns is approximately 1 acre. It is located between the shopping center to the north and the gas station there to the south, which is just above the intersection of 378 and Black River Road. This property is located in the general business zoning district. As you can see from the plan, possibly, or you guys may know since it's nice and close nearby here, that property has a single family dwelling currently on it, which is a non-conforming use in the general business zoning district. My client is proposing to construct an auto body repair shop on this property. So in preparation of that what we had actually done was we met with the township with a sketch plan back in August of 2024. And the reason for that is the ordinance does not, your zoning ordinance lays out definitions for uses. An auto body repair shop is not specifically addressed in there. So the closest use that the zoning officer determined that this project would fall under is the gas station and repair shop use, hence where the conditional use comes into play. So even though the use is close, this is what we have to fall under and meet these requirements. So just a little background on the client's, the applicant's repair shop business is most of the work he does is insurance work. So you get into a fender bender, hit a deer, drive off the side of the road into the ditch, you gotta get your car fixed. What do? You take it to a shop like his, they get the vehicle in, assess the damage, order the parts, fix the vehicle, and then it goes back out to the client. So their typical turnaround time is anywhere from 3 days to well over a week, depending on the severity of the damage and how long it takes to get the parts in. So what we're proposing to do, Molly, could you please bring the plan sheet 1 up on the screen? So what they're proposing to build is a 6,000 square foot repair shop in the center of the lot. They're proposing to retain the existing garage, which is in the southeast corner. And then you can see there's a parking facility that's designed on the side and rear of the building, and that is to comply with zoning. So that's the proposed plan and what we're looking at here. So does anybody have any questions at this point?
So the house would be raised.
Correct.
I have a question. I know you mentioned, you said the use is not in the zoning code, but looking at general business, it does note motor vehicle repair shop. So just wanted to make sure I understood.
Yeah, so and Steve can add in this if I say any of this wrong, but in the uses definitions, there's one use that is gas stations and repair shops.
Okay.
So the same process that a gas station would have to go through, we have to go through for an auto body repair shop. So that's what I'm saying here is that it's lumped together as one.
That's accurate. Ideally, the zoning ordinance should be drafted better, but that's the problem you often have with ordinances like this, that there's always a gap that nobody anticipates until something like this happens.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so.
Can I just ask one other question? The garage that's on the property that you mentioned is going to remain.
Correct.
What does that look like today? What is it used for and what?
So it was a detached garage for the dwelling. And because we came in with the sketch plan and anticipation of this plan, the applicant has actually pulled some permits through the township and has actually improved that structure, making it in much better shape than what it was when he purchased the property. It's a steel building, essentially, is what they've, I believe it was block initially, but they put like a steel siding on it, steel roof, that type of structure.
Is the location of the drive, I see right now it has a gravel driveway going to that garage. How is the layout going to be changed as far as accessing the garage? I see that it seems like there's a stormwater bed between 378 and the garage.
Yeah, so the driveway is going to stay in the same location, and it needs to for a number of reasons, but anyhow, the driveway will stay in the same location. That stormwater facility is subsurface, so the driveway will be over top of that. All right, so as Steve said, the conditional use, it's a permitted use that the township has the ability to place some additional conditions on if deemed necessary. So where we're at this point is we've submitted the plans. The engineer has reviewed the plans. We've revised the plans based upon those comments and have their letters dated October 17th. There's one letter for the conditional use, and there is a separate letter for the land development plan review application. So if it's all right with you guys, most of the items in these letters are will complies. So what I would like to do is there's 6 comments in both letters that I would like to address. And if it's all right with you, rather than going comment by comment, we'll just get right into those 6 comments. All right.
letter are you going to do first? I think you were-
What was it?
Which letter are you going to do first?
I'll do the conditional use first. I'll stay on agenda.
Go ahead.
All right. So, comment 7 is the first, and these first couple comments are all kind of very similar in nature as they relate to the driveway. So comment 7 reads, the section reads that driveways shall be located directly across from access driveways on the opposite side of the roadway where possible. In this case, the driveway is kind of stuck location-wise, one by the existing driveway and two by the limited lot size. We can't move things around a whole lot to get access around the side and rear of the building. We can't put the parking in front of the building because it has to be outside of the setbacks. So driveway has to go in that location. The next one is where possible, and this would be comment 8, where possible, access centerline points for all uses except for single-family homes shall not be less than 175 feet from an intersection of any street center line or other driveway center line. And again, there's several driveways across the street, and the gas station driveway to the south. Those 3 would be within the 175, and it's not feasible to move the driveway to meet that 175-foot setback. And just for reference, the property frontage is 188 feet, the deeded length, I should say.
Just to make sure, you're using the same place that the existing driveway is located?
Correct. We
You're
have to
going
widen it. We have to
Yeah.
widen it for two-way traffic, but yeah, we're using the same general location there. And then comment 9 is where possible, access to arterial highways shall be located via local roads. Obviously, there's no local roads that this property has frontage on, so it's not feasible. So there's 3 comments. If we jump to the next page, comment 22, it says location and number of garage doors and the elevation view of the repair shop appear inconsistent with the site plans. So we submitted architectural plans of the building. This was done very early in the process. It was more schematic in nature. As we worked through our site plan, they were much more limited to where they can put doors, where we can put the parking spaces than the client would have liked to be. So he's got to have those building plans revised. So our plan, as they show up on the site plan, is correct. And those door locations will be revised. I just wanted to make sure we pointed that out.
So those doors are gonna be facing the side by the driveway,
So there'll be one door facing the front, the street.
the street?
There's a door on the side that is strictly used for ventilation. There's parking spaces there, so they will have bumper blocks, so that way it can't be used. But that door will be used for ventilation. And then there'll be 3 doors on the back of the building. Let me correct. Let me make sure I'm right with this. I'm sorry, there is only 2 doors on the rear of the building. One for the service bay, and one, because they do auto body, they have to have a paint booth at the end of the building. So that's the.
So you're gonna have to drive behind the building to enter it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
The door at the front of the building is for pedestrian walk-in, or it's a bay?
So there'll be a man door there to the office, and then there'll be a garage door next to that for vehicles to enter.
So the vehicles could enter from the front as well?
That's correct.
Okay. Can we maybe look at the site plan so you can explain us how the traffic works?
Yep. Yeah, so keeping in mind that most of these vehicles are coming in, and this isn't like an inspection shop where you got people dropping off the car for inspection, picking up the same day, like quick in and outs. These projects take some time. So these cars come in, they'll park in a parking space. When there's space inside or it's time to work on that vehicle, an employee will use, you'll see that there's service bay 1 and an overhead door noted on the front of the building towards 378, and that's located just above the office. That would be one service bay. There's a service bay located directly to the east of that service bay on the rear of the building. And they're the 2 service bays. So that's where the vehicles are gonna come in and get worked on. There's a garage door all the way on the northeast corner of the building. That's for access to the paint booth. And then there is a door where, if you look where the office is labeled on the building, on that southerly wall on the side, there's a door between the office and the corner of the building, and that door is strictly for ventilation. You have a big steel building. It's you know, manual labor. It's nice to have a ventilation inside your building. So that's what that purpose is for that door.
Sorry, so then we have 378 on the
Yes.
left as we're looking. Cars are pulling in onto the driveway.
Yep.
And then there will be a driveway next to the 378 as well.
So, okay, so cars coming in will be parking in a parking space. There should never be a situation where a car comes in and pulls right into the garage. It's just the nature of the business that won't happen. But in order to access that garage door in the front, yes, there is I believe it's 30-foot wide paved area in front of the building. And that extends up to where you see that dumpster enclosure labeled.
And between that driveway and 378, what is the buffer?
There would be, oh. Between 35 and 40 feet.
Okay.
And that would be the lawn area.
A lawn area?
Correct.
Okay, okay.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, what would be it would be a lawn area between the front of the shop and the 378?
So from immediately in front of the shop, there'll be a paved section
Right.
of 30 feet.
Okay,
Then you have 35 to 40 feet of lawn area.
okay. As far as ingress and egress into this space, would that side of the shop where the current driveway would that be the only way to get in and out? In other words, the cars would drive through to the back of the shop, and then to leave, they'd come out the same way, and it'd be a two-way street?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, hence that's why we're widening that driveway.
And the purpose of the garage in the front,
Yeah.
the garage door in the front, then would be just for a drive-through?
They can use it to get vehicles through. Honestly, a lot of it comes down to aesthetics. He would have preferred to have two doors along the front of the building, but there's not enough space. We're limited by impervious cover, so we can't extend that driveway, still meet the parking requirement in the rear, and get that. So that's actually where the space, and ideally it would have been two doors on the front, probably just a ventilation door on the back. But in this case, we had to modify things to what you see now.
So service bay 1 and service bay 2, are they aligned or are they skewed?
They would be aligned.
They're aligned, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, and that building, just for reference, is 60-foot wide, 100-foot long.
Do you know the heights of the garage doors?
Molly, would you be able to pull up the building plans that were submitted? I make no promises, they're labeled on here, but this is our best shot. Yeah, if you can scroll down, let's see, keep going. Oh, they're not labeled. Yeah. Yeah, can you scroll up to the top page? Or yeah, this one right here, I'm sorry. Can you zoom into one of those garage doors just to see if it's noted on the door what the span is? It appears that, based on that, I would say it appears that they're 12 foot. This is 12-foot OHD.
That's wide, 12-foot wide.
Well, it says 12 by 12.
It says 12 by 12? I forgot my glasses. So.
That's okay.
Okay, nope, all right. So the largest vehicle to be working on in here would be
Probably like a standard pickup truck.
Pickup truck,
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, I could ask him, but I don't believe he works on any like heavy equipment stuff.
okay.
Yeah. All right, so the next comment I have here is comment 25, and this is about the dumpster enclosure. So as I pointed that dumpster enclosure out earlier, the plan there is just to screen that with a fence and in lieu of any plantings. Because it's in the front yard, we thought it made more sense to screen that with a fence. And then comment 26, this one has to do with the buffer plantings around the perimeter of the property. And this is just asking that the township determine if what we're proposing is adequate. Molly, if you could make you jump back and forth. Can you jump back to our site plan, sheet 1? Yeah, so you can see there's plantings along the northerly side, the rear, and the southerly side. And this is to buffer the parking spaces. Obviously, to the rear, as we discussed, it's a gas station, so even though the ordinance requires the buffering, it's one of those things I don't know that typically you would have buffering between the same uses. To the north, there's a natural buffer. The stormwater basin for the shopping center is there. That basin, the elevation difference from top of berm to our property line is approximately 14, 15 feet. So there's a natural buffer there. And same thing to the rear, Route 78 is super elevated. So you have a highway that's of similar elevation difference as the top of berm. So we're planting these trees in accordance with the ordinance. They are, if we put them in a straight line, they would be 15-foot centers, but we have them offset, 2 rows offset by approximately 10 feet.
Okay, 2 questions.
Yeah.
So the existing garage is back there.
Yes.
And what's the purpose of that going to be?
Okay, so that garage is going to be used, there's 2 parking spaces in there. That'll be used for employees. And then the second floor is going to be an office area. They were hoping to have a larger building than 6,000 square feet. Wasn't feasible, so they had to pull some of that office area and they're going to put that into the second floor of the garage. That will not be open to the public.
Okay. And the location of the dumpster? It's
Yes.
kind of odd that it's in the front of the building. And I know the purpose of the fence, but it still doesn't. I'd just be worried how much stuff would be in there and overflowing at any given time.
Well, it shouldn't be overflowing. Yeah.
I know. Where I work, we have 8 of them and they overflow. I work in a nursing facility. It happens. So I'd just be worried about the lid's not closing, things blowing around, and it's sort of the front door.
I understand. The reason we put it there is for accessibility. So we could move it to the rear, but then you have a garbage truck pulling around and then backing all the way around to the front of the building, which we saw was less ideal than putting it in the front. They pull up, they back up to the side there and pull out. It's a much simpler maneuver for a garbage truck.
What about buffering that with some landscaping in the front? Because it looks like you don't have any landscaping.
We could put some, so I'll point out that we are restricted in regards to where we can plant trees in the frontage. There is a existing sign easement and utility easement along that frontage. So we don't have a whole lot of space that we can plant stuff, but there would be enough room there that we could put maybe some like arborvitaes along the side, or along the road side and the side yard side of that dumpster, if that's what you guys would like.
I think that would be helpful. Yeah, I mean, I know it doesn't specifically address your needs, which I agree is a good point. But aesthetically, from 378, seeing some green buffer there would be attractive.
Is there any reason is there any reason it can't be on the, I guess, north side of the structure? Closer to the property line?
So we can, so there's a couple reasons. If we pushed it further north from the location where it currently is, we don't have impervious coverage to work with here. We are very tight within a couple square feet, so we can't extend that driveway area any further. The only replacement moving it closer in that direction that we could look at would be taking it from the front to the rear, which I discussed why I don't see that as an ideal opportunity or solution. And then just to touch upon why we can't put it to the south is that the buffer yard is relatively close to the south, so we don't have enough room to, it would have to be skewed on an angle to allow that truck to get in on like a 45, and there's not enough room there to get that, you know, area in and stay outside of the buffer.
If you don't do like natural shielding like plants, you can also do a fence there around that area.
We are proposing a fence, yeah.
A high fence.
Yeah, it'd be your standard privacy fence that would be high enough to conceal the dumpsters.
I think some natural vegetation around it would probably just kind of soften it up.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
And just adding to that piece there of the conversation, what would the materials be of the fence?
We're proposing wood. Yeah.
Is there any other fencing?
We are not proposing any other fencing. Yeah, there is an existing chain link fence along the rear of the property, but that's actually in PennDOT's right of way back there.
That's from 78, right?
Correct, yeah.
And the height of the fence would be about no more than 6 foot?
For the dumpster enclosure, yeah, it'd be between 4 and 6 foot. Yeah, I think our typical detail sits like, it's like a 4 foot panel, so it ends up being like 4'2" because you end up with a gap, you know, you don't put it right against the ground. But yeah, I know you can get standard panels in pretty much 2 foot increments there.
If you made the fence a little bit higher, that might sort of mitigate the effects of a situation where the dumpster was overflowing. You know, it might block some of the wind, it might prevent some of the, you know, if anything were blowing out of the dumpster. And, you know, it also might aesthetically make the consequences of overflowing less severe if there was a couple of extra feet of fencing.
Yeah, I know typically most ordinances, there is some language in there restricting the height of fences in the front yard, so that varies from ordinance to ordinance. I do not know what Lower Saucons is off the top of my head, but I could look at, you know, increasing that height, you know, to some extent.
I would agree with my colleagues about putting some like landscaping up there because it is in the frontage of 378. So when you're driving, that's kind of like the first thing you see there, either way, up or down. So doing some landscaping would do good.
Good.
Is there signage involved in this?
Yes, so we have a sign located almost right in the center of the property there. That would just be a standard 2-post sign. He has not contracted that out for design yet, but obviously it'll have to meet the zoning requirements when the time comes. And then he is proposing some lettering on the building.
Molly, does the signage have to go through us does the signage have to go through us for approval to move forward?
It would be part of the land development, but they would need separate permits for the
Separate,
signage.
okay.
And if the lettering on the log is lighted, that would need permits also.
Yep.
Okay, can I ask a question about the dumpster?
Yes.
Is that just for paper and corrugated, or what's gonna happen with these parts from the vehicles?
Yes, that would be for all of their waste.
For everything?
Correct.
It has to be pretty big. How big is that dumpster?
So
20 feet plus?
Yeah, so that area is for 2 of your standard rectangular or square dumpsters. You know, like you would see your standard garbage truck come in and pick up, not like a rollback type dumpster.
Okay, what would happen to the hazardous waste? That, I mean, if you had to like take antifreeze out of a car or oil or something, what do you do with that?
That would be a question for the applicant. I do not know the answer. When I worked in a garage, I can say that that was stored separately and that had to be disposed of by a separate third party.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
A question on the digital billboard that's on site, is that an easement?
Yes, it is.
This type of dumpster that's being proposed, is it like one of those 10-yard open dumpsters where you can just throw stuff into it, or does it have a lid on it?
It would have a lid on it, yeah.
Okay. So it's like 4-yard dumpsters or 6-yard dumpsters,
Yeah,
or bigger than that?
trying to think I don't know offhand what the size of those dumpsters are, but it's your, you know, when you see your square dumpster that, you know, garbage truck
Yeah.
comes up, picks up, that type of, or that size dumpster. I know they make some pretty small ones that style, but it's probably, well, I know the dimensions are,
We're definitely picturing the same thing. I'm just trying to get an idea of the size.
yeah. Yeah, so there's a 20-foot span there. So that's enough room for 2 of those dumpsters side by side.
10 by 10.
Well, they're smaller than 10 by 10 because there's actually bollards inside of that dumpster enclosure, so that way they don't smash the fence. So they're probably closer to like 8 by 8, something like that.
Okay. Okay.
I just had a couple questions.
Yeah.
With the, that chain link fence in the back, are you doing anything with it staying there?
No, that isn't PennDOT's right of way, so we would not be able to do anything with that.
Okay, I asked a question only because they have it there to prevent deer from going on the highway. I'm pretty sure that's the requirement, even though we all know the deer can always get over those chain link fences, but it might do something, so I'm glad that you're not like disturbing the fence if it's still there even.
Yeah, it's
it was
not
probably
in great
there when it
shape.
was-
There is one area where we will have to grade through that area, but we have to go through PennDOT permitting, obviously, for the driveway, so they're reviewing all this. So yeah, anything that they do to that fence will need to be repaired in accordance with what PennDOT requires.
Okay, and then the other question, just back to the dumpsters, with the, I guess, in light of the fact that they're using those dumpsters, not just for like office garbage, but also for like whatever they can throw in from the garbage or for the car repair part, do you have any idea like how often they anticipate having the dumpsters emptied?
I will make sure Tim has that answer for you when we have the conditional use.
Okay, thank you.
Because it's a commingled garbage.
Yeah, no, yeah, and I understand the concern. Obviously, he wants to, you know, it's the front of his building, so I wish he was here tonight, but he's a very, he's a nice person to work with, and he just wants to, you know, he wants to do what's right here, wants to go through the right process. He's gonna say, hey, I don't want the front of my building looking like trash. I'm gonna take care of it. So, but yeah, I'll make sure that we have that answer. Right.
So you said in the back there will be a bay to be entered as well. And then you also have a paint booth in
Yes.
the back, right? Are any of these parkings that you have marked in the back, you're still, I'm kind of seeing kind of like an overlap between like where the car is entering and the parking spaces?
Yeah, there is not. So where you see those areas with the lines across the parking space, we have excluded those areas from the parking calculations to allow for them to be used by the service bay and the paint booth without moving cars. And that would be in conformance with the zoning ordinance. We can't account for those parking spaces and then require them to move a car to get another car in the building.
Okay, all right, excellent. And the reason, you know, I can understand, you know, just across from there, there is another couple of auto mechanics, and the way they kind of have themselves oriented is really kind of away from the frontage. Is there a reason why all the bays cannot be accessed from the back? And then having some kind of like a nicer frontage, and not having kind of cars open that bay to the 378. The other automotives, yeah, I have it kind of like on the side, so you're entering. It's really kind of secluded from the 378, so you're not kind of seeing all the action that's happening in there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, our client, when he spoke to me about it, when he thinks of a garage, he thinks aesthetically, when you see a garage, you see a garage, you know, garage doors. So he was looking for the doors to be on the front of the building. In regards to moving it to the rear, I mean, it's something that could be considered, but would take a substantial amount of site redesign at this point to move move that bay to the rear, because we would lose parking spaces in the rear, have to relocate those. We're very restricted in regards to where we can put those, because we cannot put any parking spaces in front of the building the way this layout is. So that would be very difficult to do. So if there aren't any other questions, in regards to the conditional use application, that is the items in there to discuss. I don't know if you guys want to make a motion on the conditional use before we get into the land development comments. I will mention briefly that the land development comments, where these comments are in there, I won't go through them again, but they're mostly waiver requests and a couple minor comments.
I think it might make sense for you to finish your presentation
Okay.
first, so that way we hear everything.
Okay.
And then we can address each one separately.
Okay.
Unless someone from the commission has an objection
No,
to that.
I think that's
No,
good.
that's good.
Yep.
All right, so hopping into the land development plan review letter. Comment number 2 is about the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission review. So
Okay. What's the date of the one that you're looking at?
the same day, October 17th.
Okay.
The LVPC review, though, is dated, I'm going to go to the May 23rd letter. And their first comment is in regards to the ADA parking spaces, and they requested that they be moved closer to the building. This is not feasible due to the grades. Obviously, that existing garage is there, and that sets the grade for the surrounding area. And if you know from being out there, the grade rises quite substantially going towards the shopping center. So in order to balance that out and actually just to make the site work, it's not feasible to move those ADA spaces any closer. I've tried more than once. The second comment here is in regards to electric vehicle charging spaces. I talked to the applicant about this, and they do not work on any electric vehicles at this time. He said that that is a separate certification that they would have to have, and they don't have that, so he would not see the need to install one of those charging spaces. So that's the LVPC review. If it's all right with you guys, I'm actually going to go out of order here and skip past the waiver requests to touch on the other comments, and then we'll come back and finish with the waivers. So comment 20 says that Lower Saucon Township Council must review and approve any treatment allocations for the proposed sanitary sewer connection. And I just want to make you guys aware that we are proposing to connect into the public sewer. Plans have been revised, submitted to Lower Saucon Authority, and that is in process.
Are you're gonna have probably restrooms in the larger area in the single garage?
I do not know about the single garage, but yes, there is restrooms in the larger garage.
How does the current property have water service? Is it connected to the authority?
It is. Yep, the water service is currently connected, the sewer is not.
Okay, so would you like abandon the septic tank?
Yes, the plans note that the existing septic, there's no records on what is there, so that when they find that during construction or during demolition, they must abandon that properly.
So that's completely below ground level.
Yeah, there's no sand mount or anything out there. That's visual at the surface. those are the comments outside of the waiver request. So getting into the waiver request, we're asking for a waiver request from showing all existing features and contours within 500 feet of the property boundary. And in lieu of survey locating those features, we are submitting the aerial that, like we showed you guys here tonight, in lieu of that requirement. Obviously, that requirement is typically just to get an idea of what's the surrounding, neighborhood features, those types of things, which we feel that the aerial satisfies. The next comment is, or the next waiver request is a waiver to allow for a stormwater outlet pipe and structures to be located within 100 feet of a property line. This property is rather, it's 1 acre and it's roughly a square shape. There is almost no location on this property where we could discharge stormwater over 100 feet from the property line. So we're requesting a waiver from this. Where we are discharging stormwater is where the stormwater runs off now, and it is actually being directed to that concrete line swale that runs along Route 78. I don't know if anybody has been back behind that gas station or near there, but on where we were talking about that fence running down along, just beyond that, there's a concrete line swale. We're discharging into that, which seems pretty ideal.
Do you have to go through Northampton County Conservation District for that, knowing that you're now creating more surface for water to be collected and discharged?
So we are decreasing runoff. We have to by the ordinance, which Andrew, I'm sure can confirm that we are doing so. But to answer your question in regards to the Conservation District, this project is less than 1 acre, so it does not require a NPDES permit from the Conservation District. However, Andrew did say in this letter that they are going to require an ENS plan review.
Yeah, because as stated, so the property is under 1 acre, so the stormwater design doesn't get reviewed by Northampton County Conservation District, but they will review the ENS BMPs. So those are the erosion and sediment control BMPs that'll be installed during construction. In regards to stormwater runoff, though, Tyler's correct in saying that the ordinance is written in a manner that stormwater will actually have to be decreased in regards to the pre-development based off of what his design will be.
So right now, all that water is going to be going in the back to that culvert or that gully type, and it goes, I think, towards Black River.
Yeah.
Down in there. Doesn't that flood out a lot? Big storms?
Yeah, to my knowledge, yes, it does.
So would this add to the pain of that?
No, it would actually, based off of how the ordinance requires the applicant to reduce stormwater runoff even more than what currently exists. So there's no stormwater BMPs there, and they're actually going to be retaining more stormwater than what would be running off the site in the pre-development conditions.
So are you developing rain gardens for that to happen?
No, so there's a subsurface facility. So we're using like stone and engineered structures that retain that storm water under the driveway.
Okay.
The flow rate in which it leaves.
So you're using underneath the paved parking as some water holding for it to gotcha.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, so that was the second waiver, and the third waiver request is from installing curbs and sidewalks as, it's not characteristic of that area. So that is all I have.
Any more questions on the waiver request?
On the waiver for the sidewalks and curb, didn't Lehigh Valley Planning Commission suggest also as one of the things to improve the pedestrian access within and along the property frontage?
Yeah, that was lumped in with the ADA comment. Yeah, I understand their comment is saying to improve pedestrian access within the frontage, but I mean, we're talking about an auto body repair shop, so people are coming and going with cars. And then two, there's no sidewalks on the adjoining properties to connect to. So you're talking, you'd add 180 just say 190 feet of sidewalk that connects to nowhere. Like there's no sidewalks going up to the shopping center. There's none down at the gas station. So yeah, I just don't see that it would be.
If,
We
you know,
gotta start somewhere.
but, well, so what's coming
I
to
know,
my-
I know this question keeps on coming up with the sidewalks, even
Oh, it
like with the
does.
other,
we talked about it
property. Yeah, we
There's the
talked about
sheets
this,
that are-
so.
we approved the
I'm gonna
sheets.
keep on bringing it up.
Right, we approved that sheets going in to move forward. Aren't they doing some frontage sidewalks or something?
There's a bus stop there.
There's
I
a
think
bus
that's
stop?
the difference.
Is that the only thing they were doing?
Yeah, I don't know if you know, there is a Atlanta bus stop.
Okay.
Just, I guess that would be, south of the location, and people get off that bus stop, and then, like, employees that work in the shopping center, like,
Okay.
unfortunately traverse the unsidewalk section and then walk up the berm into the, sometimes, like, that happens, even though I don't know that, and there's been discussion about moving this stop or having one in the shopping center, but there is a bus stop, like, it's where that gravel lot is, right off of Black River Road.
Okay. Yep.
Right in front of 78, that's like apparently where they stop. So that you know, that is a thing with the sidewalks there. I would just say that I just so you know, I know I walked in late before you started. I'm the council liaison, so I'm a member of council. So I will again eventually get the conditional use before me also. But you know, I can say I like sidewalks going in. Just yeah.
Yeah,
We
we're gonna
required,
have to start at some point.
I don't recall, but with regard to that project at that shopping center, did they put in a sidewalk? Was that part of the approval?
Got the sheets?
Yeah. I mean, it was so long ago.
I don't
I
think
don't
we
believe
requested
that-
a side,
I think we talked about it, and then
There was something
thought
to
they
do
said they
with,
would.
the bus stop and a sidewalk and, safety for those passengers to get to the parking lot
I know we talked about
safely.
it at the Giant, the shopping center at the Giant.
I might be getting confused.
I don't believe there was any sidewalks installed for the sheets, just because they were just a leaser of a certain section.
Gotcha. You're right. You're
But
right.
there were some Lanta bus stop improvements, I believe, done in that
Got my projects
location for the
confused.
sheets.
Yep.
Oh,
Okay.
it might have come up with the sheets, but right, because they didn't control that property. Okay.
Okay.
Another alternative for you to consider is, if it doesn't, in your determination, if you determine that perhaps it doesn't make sense to force the applicant to put in curbs and a sidewalk now, but you don't want to wait forever, you can also have an option to defer.
You can.
Meaning that they don't have to do it now, but it could be at a later date if the township determines it makes sense. For example, quite frankly, in my estimation, the unlikely event that we do have curbs and sidewalks starting from the shopping center and working its way down 378, then you wouldn't want a gap at this property. In reality, is that ever happening? Probably not,
Right.
but
Very slim chance, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there's too much of.
that might be
But-
something to consider too.
It's something that you could put in there to say, if in the event that we upgrade sidewalks to the neighboring properties.
Because I certainly understand the applicant's standpoint, and I've
Yeah.
done it when I'm applicant's counsel, when I'm on the other side over here saying, why are you gonna make me put in curbs and a sidewalk? They're gonna go to nowhere. But if there ever comes a time where they will lead to somewhere, that's something to consider.
And I do have another question around like how you are connecting with the other two neighbors with the gas station. Obviously with the one on top, you really, as you said, there's a really high incline there. So, and there's a basin, so connection might not be natural. But connection with the gas station, are you proposing some kind of like a driveway in between?
No, we are not.
You're not?
Yeah, and I don't know that there'd be any
That's okay.
feasibility for that because they actually have a car wash on that side.
No?
So it doesn't even connect into like a main portion of their driveway.
Yeah.
Is there a reason?
You wouldn't want to.
I'm thinking like if I go get my auto repaired and I want to go get gas, I'm kind of like getting out, I have to get out on 378 and then swerve back in again.
I think that's a, more of a shopping center type design than, this is more private, and you'd have to go out into the main road to get there. And I wouldn't want to see traffic going from the gas station onto their property and being used to get on 378, cause traffic flow into each other's space that shouldn't happen.
Okay.
So,
What? I'm sorry. What hours are you planning on keeping?
His hours are 8 to 5.
I saw that the fire department asked for a summary of hazardous materials. I know that's not necessarily before us, but
Yeah, it's something we'll comply with. In the narrative that we had submitted, we had said that no hazardous materials as defined by the ordinance would be stored on site, and that was information that was provided to us by the applicant. So I'll have to redirect that comment to the fire marshal. I don't know that I saw the fire marshal review come in through our office, but I'll make sure I reach out and get that review letter before the council meeting.
is the building sprinklered? Do you know?
I do not know the answer to that question.
How tall was the building? The main building?
Well, by zoning, it has to be less than 35 feet. Based on those doors and what we were looking at, if that's a 12-foot door, you're probably talking about like, I don't know, 15-foot eaves maybe. That's just an approximation based on the plans we were looking at.
Yeah. And looking at neighboring, the only housing, I'm just looking at the lighting, that it would light noise, but you have to go pretty far to get to the houses off of Old Philadelphia Pike.
Yep, and all the lights that we're proposing, other than if they would have any lights for the signage, all the building lights for the parking facility are located on the south side of the building and the rear side of the side yard side and the rear side. So there's no lighting proposed on the building frontage, other than, like I said, if they put lighting in for the signage.
So they're all connected to the building?
Correct.
Yeah.
I saw the Environmental Advisory Council asked the township engineer for an opinion regarding petrochemicals and automotive contaminants commingling with stormwater runoff and going to the Black River drainage network. Is the township engineer satisfied with regard to the stormwater runoff and its effect?
I don't think I received that letter from the environmental.
I see it's stamped May 20th, 2025. Following actions were taken by the EAC, and that's a motion by Drew Germanowski. The Environmental Advisory Council requests that the township engineer review the plans for the Rosen Grant Land Development Proposal, LD 1-25. Oh, and it's to the Planning Commission, and it's to Jay Finnegan. Attention should be paid to the collection and handling of stormwater from the site to ascertain that petrochemicals and automotive contaminants will not be commingled or stormwater runoff that will be released as an outfall to the Black River Drainage Network in compliance with MS4 stormwater quality requirements. Yeah, and I see that it's a motion to council and the Planning Commission.
I believe this will be more like on the building code review side of things, but I'm gonna assume that there's gonna be trench drains within the building, and then there's gonna be some sort of oil water separator built into that. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, I don't know the specifics of how the building design is going to be done, but yeah, there's due diligence that the applicant is going to have to go through to ensure that that is satisfied. I mean, that's
Okay.
at this point, I think a pretty, for a new construction, I think this is something that is pretty commonly addressed. It's more when you have some of these older garage facilities that had, this type of thing tied into their septic systems and stormwater, discharges, that the concern comes in. But yeah, this is a completely new shop. So like Andrew said, they're gonna have to go through building review, and any of those things are gonna have to pass building code or meet building code.
So are the plans gonna be updated, revised, and redrawn and for us to see? Or is this what we we see and we're approving now?
Yeah, so like, in regards to what you see on this plan, this is the preliminary plan. The final plan, a land development plan does not typically include or does not include interior building design. That would be something that would be handled during the building permit review. And maybe Steve can add to this if I'm misspeaking on any of this, but I don't believe that there'd be, the changes to these plans compared to what you see them now are gonna be minimal when we come in for final plan, unless you would so feel moved to make a preliminary final action tonight.
Well, just seeing the site plan, it just seems like it's not all put together for me to react to. It's not. I need to see contour lines, I need to see the flows, and what I've seen, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, so Molly, can we hop to sheet 3, please?
Sheet 3?
Yes, please. Yeah, so that's the existing features plan. You can see the dwelling, driveway, garage. That's all right, I jumped in. So if you keep going to the next one then, Molly. Yeah, so here's our grading plan. So you can see the proposed contours. You can see on the north side of the lot, we're cutting into the grade. On the south side, we actually have to build that up a little bit. Like I said, we got to meet that existing grade of the current garage. And also provide for enough area there for that stormwater bed to be constructed underneath. We got some trench drains proposed to collect stormwater runoff prior to going out onto the street. We are proposing a few inlets for stormwater runoff collection. You can see the striping for the spaces similar to sheet 1. The lighting is shown on this plan with the isolux lines. So, I mean, again, Andrew can speak to this as well since he reviewed these plans, but these plans are pretty far along in regards to design. There's not a whole lot more site design to be done.
I'm assuming the township engineer has reviewed all this and reviewed the underground retention for the water. And he's approved that design?
We have yet to approve the stormwater design. There are some outstanding comments in regards to the stormwater design. So what you're seeing on the plan may change slightly. As long as Tyler's willing to comply with our stormwater comments that we've made already. They're retained within the land development letter, not the conditional use letter, the stormwater comments.
Yeah, and those comments are will comply. I'll work with Andrew to satisfy them. Like I said, we've already revised these plans once, and at this point, you know, I've spoke with Andrew. We've worked through some things. We feel pretty good about these plans, and the comments that he's asking for us to revise, I at least look at as they're rather minor in nature in regards to the overall site design.
So is your shaded gray area, is that the area of the water retention?
Correct.
That's going to be that?
Correct.
Okay, and then your outlet is going?
In the southeasterly direction. That's the pipe going.
Okay, I see that. Then it's going out that way.
Yep.
Okay.
And then that's where you can see those contours in the rear are on that easterly side in the Route 78 right-of-way, show that concrete line.
So all the water from the parking lot in the back is coming down to here?
That stormwater is already diverted into that concrete line swale prior to our property or near that property, that north easterly property corner.
Okay. So what's the contour at the end of the driveway where it meets the grass and before it goes down to the hill? Is there at the edge of the parking lot, is it level with the surface going to the back of the, I'll call it a ditch, where the water goes?
So you're talking about the easterly side edge of our parking lot?
Yeah.
So no, there is actually a bank there. So we will be
there.
cutting that in. And what that then allows us to do is collect that stormwater runoff to that inlet without collecting a whole lot of offset area.
I guess where I was going was there's no way you can create any rain gardens to, I know you have it underground, but there's no way to collect rain gardens, which are nice, and it replenishes
No, unfortunately, there is not. And as Andrew can attest to, in our original design, we tried to fit a rain garden in on the south side of the existing garage, and it wasn't feasible due to the discharge elevations and the area that is between those two. You can't get a berm in with sufficient area to collect water to then not flood the building and still have a positive discharge to the bottom of that rain garden.
I'm just a little worried of how much water is going back there. But it's not my call. I'm not the engineer. I haven't heard from them.
Yeah,
It's tough for me to really say, okay, let's move on. But, and if there are comments, I haven't seen them.
My comment, just before Andrew has a comment, just going back to that May 21st document from the Environmental Advisory Council. I mean, the way I read that document, I kind of read it as a directive that the township engineer review these plans with a specific focus on stormwater management, with attention being paid to collection and handling of stormwater. I understand these are preliminary plans, and not every detail for the interior of the building is going to be in these preliminary plans. Like, I don't have an issue with this project conceptually, but my hesitation is that I don't know that this particular analysis, as described in the May 20th motion from the Environmental Advisory Council, has been done yet. I understand you do have plans to prevent petrochemicals and the other type of chemicals from getting into Black River. I'm sure you do. I just don't know that that's been done yet, and I think that's, before Andrew has his comments, I want to express that I'm concerned not concerned, but my hesitation is that this analysis hasn't been performed yet, and I think perhaps it should be. At least that's how I read this request from the Environmental Advisory Council.
No, understood. So I will definitely take a look at what the Environmental Council has requested. But in regards to the township stormwater ordinance, just going back to your comments in that regards, there are, I don't know if it's maybe more helpful to go through some of the comments that were made, and then Tyler can kind of give a brief description of how he will comply with some of those things. The one thing with the rain garden too, which was unfortunate, is how the township ordinance is written is it's really set up for larger stormwater, or I'm sorry, larger lots where larger stormwater facilities would take place. So having berm sizes of a certain size just wasn't feasible on this particular lot, and that's why the applicant did end up removing the rain garden from the design and increasing the underground stormwater bed to handle that removal.
Yeah, I'm okay with the underground. I know what that area back there on Black River has become, and I don't want to be part of the yay yet saying that I've approved this to increase any more flooding back there without pure knowledge that the design is going to do what it's supposed to do. And I know what that's like, and I've been down that road. So I'm just a little hesitant.
So it seems like you would be more comfortable if some of the stormwater comments that were made were kind of knocked off of the comment list, meaning you see a more final design of the stormwater facility.
I kind of think so. I mean, how deep is the stormwater facility? I know it's all stone. Is it crates? I've designed some of them myself, and I've seen them and been part of construction of all that. I'm going through that right now at work. So I'm hearing all this, and I was before the board. So, but these all questions come up, and they're pertinent to the people downstream and their effects. And I don't think I have enough for that information to validate my vote.
So if I can add to that, that design depth and everything elevation wise, that's all in the plan set. So if we want to look over that tonight, we can. Coming back to what Andrew had spoke about earlier, this project is located in an area with a 30 and 70% release rate district. So what that means is our pre-development runoff or our post-development runoff has to be restricted back to 30% of what the pre-development is for our 2-year storm event, which is, as you can hear from that, very restrictive. And as Andrew's going to attest to, he's not going to sign off on these plans until we show that we meet those requirements, which our report shows. Andrew's got some comments that, again, in my opinion, are rather minor in nature. Some TC flow path was one of them. Just some things that, in a typical, in most land development reviews, the comments I see in here, we would address between the preliminary and final plan submissions. So, and that would be my request tonight, is that the information, and because we've revised these plans, I would make the argument that these plans are pretty far along. We are showing general compliance with the stormwater management ordinance, that the plans are at a place that are suitable for preliminary plan approval. And then we would come in with final approval showing that, hey, we met Andrew's comments for, the X, Y, and Z, because obviously any motion would be conditioned upon the comments in his letter. So we have to satisfy them. I don't see any substantial planning or layout changes occurring based upon any of the comments in this letter.
So,
I think this letter also was talking about like mixing the chemicals with the stormwater drain, and that even the size of the pond would not answer, right?
Well, I think that's a separate issue from the EAC, and
That's the comment from the Environmental Advisory Council.
yes, correct.
Yeah.
So we have not received that letter. I understand that is something before you that you guys have to weigh in. I am not aware of any calculation or analysis that would be performed to confirm or deny what they're requesting here. It is more conceptual in nature. Obviously, Andrew's your engineer that they're requesting and Brian would be the ones that are tasked with this confirmation. But from my standpoint, it's not like a calculation where we're going to say, yep, this works, or no, it doesn't. It's more conceptual in nature. And I think we would comply with that coming in with final plans.
I know we have to comply with that, but Andrew, your review of all this, you're completely satisfied that based on your review of the stormwater and the design, you're the township engineer that's supposed to go through all this.
And I mean,
So yeah, I did, as I just stated previously too, so I do have quite a few stormwater comments that still remain that need to be satisfied, but as Tyler said, he will comply with those stormwater comments. I do anticipate seeing some small design changes in regards to the stormwater comments, and or showing conceptual or additional information to prove certain design constraints that Tyler has performed. But for the most part, there is no, I have not been satisfied with the stormwater comments or the stormwater design thus far, hence why there's comments that remain in regards to the stormwater.
so my question specifically, I think the way I read this May 20th, it seems like a directive where, they're asking us to not grant further approval until this additional analysis is performed by the township engineer. This additional analysis regarding stormwater with a specific focus on petrochemicals and automotive contaminants. And, obviously chemicals in a river are a big deal. And that's the source of my hesitation today. Other than that, I think this is like a reasonable business idea and everything, but it seems like the Environmental Advisory Council asked that this analysis be performed, and I feel like it hasn't been yet. And
I'm unaware of a method to analyze, mistreatment of the use of the property, if that makes sense. Because like all in all, you would want to, technically speaking, you would collect your oil and you would discharge it in the proper methods. In regards to the environmental council's request, I would say there are maybe some additional building code requirements that can be enforced on the building itself to maybe assist them with the comfortability of it. Like for instance, you can install trench drains indoors that lead to an oil water separator. So therefore, any oil that for some odd reason doesn't get captured in their bin, or any other chemical that doesn't get captured in what it's supposed to be, will then go into an oil water separator and help in that regard.
I think that's the point Tom was making. If there was, I agree, there might not be a scientific method of analyzing how much chemicals is going to go through the dirt and into the river. But there is an engineering analysis that you could perform that these mechanisms are in place in the plans to prevent chemicals from entering the water table. And I understand that the where these designs are right now, the intention is certainly to put these mechanisms into the building plans, but they're not there yet. So
It sounds like there's several designs that options you can go to. I want to know what it is. And if the trench drain is in front of the garage door, that's great because it will go to a separator. Then you have factual that it's going to be separated, and it's more of a relief. It seems like it's like a design in place, and it's just not all together yet.
So one of the options you have is you have the option to, you don't have to make a decision today with regard to the land development. You could ask the applicant, you could table it, ask the applicant to come back, but there's obviously additional costs for the applicant to do that, time delays on behalf of the applicant, but that's an option. Another option that you can consider, which might make sense, is since the EAC's recommendations are more conceptual than anything else, you can preliminarily approve the plan, or recommend preliminary approval, and add as a condition that the applicant meet the requirements or meet the concepts of the EAC to the satisfaction of the engineer and staff. So in other words, you're not saying it's okay as is, but say you have to go back and work on this and come up with a more concrete plan that our engineer is comfortable with. And remember, you're going to see this again for final approval too. So that might make some sense, because I'm concerned that if we send him back and say, come back with something else, he's not going to really come back with much more at this level from a plan standpoint. Does that?
I understand that. This is the first time I'm seeing this. And I just think there's a lot more that needs to be put on paper.
And if that's how
it's a lot of concepts. It's a lot of unknowns, and I think it's just I just don't think it's complete.
And if that's how the group feels, that's okay.
And that's just me.
I understand that. I know we haven't voted yet. I'm just saying, if that's the consensus, then the consensus is perhaps you table it and ask them to come back.
Right.
I want to provide another alternative because that's my job.
I don't want to incur any more costs with your client or you, but to me, this is preliminary.
Just so it's clear,
And not to be disrespectful, but this is a preliminary plan. To Steve's point, we have to come back with final.
So here's what I want to do then. I understand that. But I want to put some conditions laid down that there's things that I think I need to see.
Okay.
For the final. But the final has to be approved by the engineer, and that it's going to work.
Specific to the storm.
Specific to the storm, the water collection, the oil collection, the gas collection, the discharge to.
So you're looking for any type of the storm runoff and the contamination.
Correct.
the May 20th, 2025 directive.
I mean,
from the
there's all these
Environmental
cars gonna be
Advisory
parking out there, you don't know what condition they are, you don't know what's leaking, even in the parking lot, it's gonna be collecting something.
Going into the trench drain.
It's
Yeah, these are
going
cars
into
that
the
have been in
trench, well,
accidents,
it's not going into trench drains are right at the garage door. That's where trench drains are, they collect anything that's spilled from inside coming through. You're not gonna be doing trench drains all around the perimeter to collect that, but some of these vehicles are damaged, obviously, to the point where, you know, there's discharge on the ground. When it rains, it's gonna go somewhere. I mean, there's 21 parking spaces for damaged vehicles, correct?
So,
And I'm not gonna say what the severity of the damage is, but you have to go to the extreme. What if there's 21 extreme vehicles there?
yeah, so we're proposing 23 parking spaces, and you have to remove 6 of them for employees' parking spaces.
Okay, so 6 are employee.
It'd be, leave 17 for use, but I mean, some of those have to be, yeah, customers picking stuff up, some of them are gonna be completed vehicles, so, yeah, to your point, I understand, yes, there's gonna be vehicles in disrepair.
Worst case scenario is there's 17 damaged vehicles sitting on that parking lot,
Correct, that'd be worst case.
all leaking fluids.
Right. My concern is a lot of people have well water. I have well water. I have to watch out for their safety as well. Me approving it, something happens, I approved it. I gotta make sure these mechanisms are in place. Even for a preliminary, I wanna hear more. There's a lot of unknowns. I know the final will have it, but this is where you gotta do the research and what's best for the lot and what's best for water. So maybe your final will have all the answers to it. I don't know, but that's something I want the engineer to say. There's, how many questions are out there yet to be resolved?
Well, we started out with, I want to say in the 30s stormwater comments, and I would say there's roughly 15 remaining. One of them also being LVPC's stormwater review as well. I don't know if that was mentioned earlier, but LVPC is doing independent stormwater review as well.
But that's not done yet.
It has been submitted to LVPC. LVPC has provided comments.
On what design though?
I'm sorry?
The current design
The
that you're
current
looking
design.
at, yeah,
With the underground?
correct.
Okay,
And they have very similar comments as Andrew that we're working to resolve.
okay,
Yeah. And that, again, that is a will comply.
okay.
Yes, I guess my question to you would be is what you had spoke of earlier, that the final plan would show compliance with the EAC concerns and the engineer's stormwater review. Was that a motion that was being made?
No, not yet.
No,
Okay,
We're not.
okay.
no, we're
Okay.
getting there.
Yeah, we have 2 paths it looks like we wanna take.
Correct.
Either table it and do it, this whole process again in the future, or have somebody to put a motion in to add these extra comments added on, so when you come in for the final review, you can satisfy all these questions that we've brought up.
Can I ask council to clarify what the conditional use is that's being sought?
The conditional use is the use of the, and I'm gonna get the term wrong, but because it's a gas station / auto repair, that falls under a conditional use. That is not permitted by right. So you have to go to township council and say, can I utilize this property for this particular use? And it falls under, as I said, that category.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I wanna make sure these mechanisms
Yeah.
are, I'm just letting you know, in the final, I'm gonna ask these questions, and I still have a choice to say yay or nay.
Well, and I,
These are the things that I'm bringing up to you that I'm very concerned with.
and I think that's very appropriate of a preliminary and final process. That's the intent of MPC creating this process of you come in with a preliminary plan, then you come in with a final plan, so that way you can have these conversations while it's still in a preliminary phase, you can make some slight modifications, resolve any small issues that are still outstanding, come in with a final plan that answers those questions.
Just so I'm clear, because I think that you said it, I'm gonna try to say it in a little different way that maybe helps. Our current code requires that we reduce the amount of stormwater runoff by 70% from what it currently gives, right?
That is correct.
So currently, whatever the flow is, they have to do the calculation. And then they have to take away 70% of that runoff to assist with the stormwater concerns on Black River. I agree with the concerns about the petrol and all that, and the cars sitting in the parking spaces, and where is that runoff gonna go with whatever's leaking out of the cars? That's a different situation. I just wanted to make sure, because everybody's been talking about that 30%, but it's 70% reduction of what's currently being run off.
Correct.
Now, I'll just add to that, it's actually staged, so, and I don't know what exactly it is off the top of my head, but I believe it's the 2-year storm is that situation that you said, we can only release at 30% of the existing condition. As you get into your larger storm events, it flips and is actually, we can release at 70%. So it's still a reduction of the 100%, but I don't want to paint the picture that for every storm event, we're reducing it down to 30, because that'd be incorrect. The ordinance requires 30 for the smaller storm events, then it jumps up to 70 for the larger, just to be clear.
Okay.
And what table are they using? Are they using the flood maps from FEMA? Like, how do they determine what the 2-year storm is?
We use NOAA data, which is NOAA Atlas 14.
Okay, so it's like FEMA maps are not accurate, so
Yeah.
that's what my concern was.
And one of the things that the applicant didn't address specifically, it's not their fault, but in part of the comments, there was comments related to zoning. And there was an issue with regard, and it may have been communicated informally to the applicant. I'm not sure if Tyler reached out to you today.
He did not today.
It was because of my fault, not his.
Okay.
There's 2 potential zoning issues that the applicant has. One relates to parking. It's referenced, at least in the letter, as comment number 12, where it says no parking shall be permitted in the required yard areas. And the applicant is stating that the garage is an existing non-conforming that contains 2 existing parking spaces. So it has 2 existing parking spaces which exist now, and it is a non-conforming use as a residence. However, since it is now the use is being changed to a commercial use, the non-conforming aspect of it doesn't carry. So it is my position as a solicitor that they're going to have to go get zoning appeal unless they find another way around that, which means changing parking spaces perhaps, or getting a determination from the zoning officer or otherwise. But as is, they would need to do that. There's a separate issue that may arise. It wasn't addressed, and it may be handled separately, but I believe it's a road frontage issue that they're short by only a couple feet, and perhaps the engineer can help on that one. But I believe there's a 200-foot requirement, and you're at 198 or something like that.
It's 196. It's 4 feet. So yeah, I would, and in legal terms, I would argue that's de minimis. That, I mean, we're talking a 4-foot difference, and this is specific to the use, not that it's a conditional use. So with the same use next door, it just kind of, in my mind, it meshes together.
But the problem for the applicant is if he has a new use and he's short, he essentially has he has a undersized lot. Unfortunately for the applicant, well, fortunately or unfortunately, it's unfortunate that you don't meet the requirement. It's fortunate in the sense of when he goes for relief, it's only 4 feet, and it's much more, it's anticipated. There's no, guarantee in life or in law, but it's anticipated he won't have an issue, but he might have to go to the zoning office for that, to the zoning hearing board. So I just want everybody to be aware of that. If they have to go, they'd make the application for both things. I just didn't want to, I didn't want to not talk about it today, just so you're aware of it. So anything we do today would be, I would recommend that the applicant would then have to go to the zoning hearing board to get any relief that's necessary. But I wanted the board to be aware of that.
Okay.
So where we are right now is we have the conditional, I think it makes sense to address the conditional use one first,
Yes.
because number one, that's timely, they need an answer today. And you have the letter from Hanover. So if one would be inclined, I don't want to make the motion for you, but if one would be inclined, you could make a motion to recommend approval for the conditional use, subject to all the comments made in the letter dated October 17th, entitled conditional use application, because there's two letters dated the same day. And then subject to any zoning requirements that are also necessary. So if somebody wants to make that motion, that would be a positive motion for them to move forward. If somebody wants to make a different motion, it's totally up to you.
I can make that motion.
Sorry, and all the land improvements we're gonna make in the second motion.
Correct, land improvements are,
Including the deferment for the sidewalks, the deferment to meet all the comments for the.
correct, that is not what this motion's about. And that's what's a little confusing, it's the same project, two different things that they're looking for.
This is just for them to be able to operate a auto repair shop at that space,
On
right?
the space.
Okay.
So we have one motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All ayes?
Aye.
Any nays? So move forward.
Okay, so that's the conditional use, now it's the land development. So your choice here is, just like we talked about, you don't have to make a decision today, you can table it and ask the applicant to come back in accordance with the comments made. Or you could make a motion to recommend approval subject to a whole series of things, and if that's where you're headed, I'll give you the list. But the list would include the letter from Hanover Engineering, conditioned on meeting the concepts of the EAC letter, subject to the satisfaction of staff and the engineer, subject to getting zoning approvals, subject to all third-party comments, including LVPC. So your choice is, do you want them to come back with this plan, or are you okay with them moving forward subject to the conditions?
Can we talk about it?
Of course you can. And you can do anything else. You don't have to do A or B. You can do C or D.
No, I kind of knew the answer, but, all right, so my opinion is, I'm pretty compelled by the EAC, note from the 20th, and if it was anything other than something about chemicals and where they go when they leave the shop, I'd be fine with a conditional approval. I also am on a well. I know there's plenty of other sources of chemicals that, get into our ground besides this shop, which again, I think is a perfectly reasonable project. My preference would be to, have a little more specific plans. I just think we've all expressed concerns. Well, several of us have expressed concerns about, just seeing what the plans are as far as capturing the chemicals from this shop before they get into the drainage system. Maybe what the plans are to ensure that, chemicals from the cars don't get into the drainage system. I mean, personally, I'm like a little bit less concerned about that because there's cars everywhere and it rains everywhere. But I'm more concerned about, from the actual shop, because paint and things like that. I don't want that in the water table. I don't want that in the river. And it seems like the Environmental Advisory Council asked that an analysis be performed. And, I understand it's a preliminary plan right now, but it seems to me like the Environmental Advisory Council asked for just at least those specifics to be looked at by the engineer before the application moved forward. And I think that's certainly something that could be done. And I don't even mean like draw it out. I mean, here's specifically what we're going to do. Township engineer, are you satisfied that this is going to protect our river? If that had been done, and Andrew said, yes, he showed me what he's going to do, I'm satisfied that this will protect our river. I'd be like, okay, well, this directive was followed. Then I'd be okay subject to the other directives. But I think that wasn't done. I'd feel more comfortable, coming back next meeting, and just having some of these things checked off before giving preliminary approval. That would be my preference.
I have to understand how it's gonna work. I can't vote on something without knowing what options there are. And that you're completely satisfied. I know you're gonna say, I'm going to make it work, but I wanna know what it is that's working. I too am concerned. Like I said, I have well water, I have a septic system. I live in an area where some guy stores 3,000, no, I'm exaggerating, 40 cars on his lot right next to the stream, and no one's doing anything about it. There's oil leaking, there's varmints, and no one can do anything in this township. And our neighborhood is tired of it. I don't want anything to happen here.
Any other comments?
I mean, it's kind of from the applicant perspective. You know, they'll pay money now or pay money later as well, right? Because we have opportunity to say no at the final review.
We do.
And have them come back again. So to me, as long as all conditions are not met, we're probably not gonna move forward with it regardless. So it's kind of like, yeah, the commitment of the applicant. I think for the conditional use permit, we all agreed, yes, we already have a couple of automotive shops across. So from that perspective, yes. From perspective, I mean, you're either incurring cost now to kind of, to answer some of these questions, provide more concepts, or you'll be incurring costs, you know, in 2 months. Again, you will have to do this in one end or the other.
Yeah, I understand. And I think from an engineering perspective, I look at it from, once we've received preliminary plan approval, that the townships, and maybe Steve can add to this too, but like preliminary plan approval is conceptual in nature. So what it's doing is it's locking in the concept of this design. So I think I would say that, and I think we've heard it here tonight, that in general, you guys are okay with the concept. So from my standpoint, and again, I'm not on the board, I can't speak for you guys, but from my standpoint, I would say, if the concept's okay, then I would hope that a motion would be made confirming the concept, and we acknowledge that, yes, you guys are going to say, we want to comply, you guys got to comply with the AC letter, and we have no problem with that. And the only reason I say that I push for final plan approval tonight is that until we have that final plan approval, or that preliminary plan approval, we essentially don't have anything. So I mean, obviously we achieved the conditional use recommendation tonight, but that is the push for the preliminary plan approval tonight. I understand it's do we satisfy this now or do we just satisfy it later? That would be why I would request that it be, we would satisfy that with final instead of preliminary.
Part of the difficulty whenever you grant preliminary approval from a practical standpoint is it's very hard. You can't by law impose new restrictions on final. So whatever you do on a preliminary standpoint, you want to be sure that you've covered it. So if there's reservations, and I'm hearing at least from some members there's reservations, if it means, if that's where we're headed, or that's where you're headed, then it would make some sense to just have them come back, address this once and for all, and then move forward.
You don't get to add to the list.
You don't get to add to the list. You can refine the list, but then there's always the question of what was list number 1 compared to the final list. And you don't want to be in, nobody wants to litigate that. You'd want to be clearer.
I think really what I want to hear is that your review of all the stormwater, and who's the third party reviewer?
Any third-party review would be anybody, LVPC, PennDOT, or anybody else.
But that's going to happen, the third party reviewer. Didn't happen yet, correct?
They have not received approvals from either entity, LVPC or PennDOT,
Right.
but they have gone through some review processes.
It's still in review process.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So I would be more relieved knowing that the two are come to a consensus saying this is good. And it's not, in my eyes, there yet at all. It's like a system of checks and balances.
Comments, I mean, you look at
I would just say that it's very rare that you have approvals from all third parties prior to preliminary approval, which is what I'm hearing tonight.
And by the way, that's fair. He's absolutely right.
So
Absolutely right.
So I think because, you know, we've submitted to PennDOT, we've made the revisions they asked, we resubmitted to PennDOT, Township was copied on that. Same thing, we submitted to the Township, we revised plans, we're here tonight. we submitted LVPC, we revised plans, we have the review. So I would say, and I understand the concern with the EAC's letter. And I think to Steve's point of additional conditions is like, that is the condition, right? So I think if that's the condition you're concerned with, it's kind of a broad concern of saying, hey, we want you to satisfy this. We can hammer out the specifics as we go in through final. And so again, that's again why I would come back to, I feel that preliminary is appropriate because we've hashed out a lot of these conceptual, preliminary, typical requirements at this time.
Agreed. But for final, I guess maybe where I'm getting at is in final, I want to see it all.
And I agree.
Are we comfortable moving forward, trying to move this forward with him coming in within the final plans, everything?
I think preliminary approval is a big grant, and like Steve says, it does sort of lock us in, and we can't add to the list. And I'm not saying we want to add to the list, and frankly, I'm not concerned about the third-party approvals. I fully agree you shouldn't be bound by an agency that you have no control over. I don't think anyone thinks that. My concern is we're not just talking about stormwater runoff. I agree you have an engineered plan, and the engineer says it satisfies the code. It's the chemicals in the water, and that's a pretty sensitive topic.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
In a residential.
Can we make the conditional item general enough that it would cover where we'd be comfortable and say we're really not going to add anything to it. He's either meeting these things or he's not.
The problem you run into is that the EAC letter is not as definitive as it could be, and it's not anybody's fault. If it said meet a requirement and the requirement is identified as A, B, and C, then you could. The problem is it's not really like that. It's more conceptual in nature.
So then I think, Steve, you touched on this earlier, that in that sense that it is conceptual in nature, who are you defaulting this to? Your engineer to review. So then I would see that it could be appropriate to, as Steve had said, you would make a motion conditioned upon that EAC letter that it's satisfied to your engineer's satisfaction, because he's going to be the professional to review, is this met or not? So even though there's some ambiguity there, you're still defining that as saying, okay, here's the process in which we're going to do that. And I think, obviously, you've had Hanover Engineering as your engineers for a long time here. You have a comfortability level with them that they will do their duty and require whatever is required by that letter or that comment.
Absolutely.
But do you conceptually have on your plans where all this will be captured? Like, where is the oil going to be stored? All the chemicals where will going to get stored? We talked earlier about like the dumpster, and you mentioned that the car parts, all of that will be going to the dumpster. And then we kind of briefly said, where are the chemicals going to be stored? And
so there's no chemical storage as defined by the ordinance on this property.
yes.
Okay, but as it
Or
would
maybe the
relate
better
to
word would be
weight,
disposed of
like
the
waste
oil.
disposal.
Waste
So
disposal, yeah.
I would say that will all be kept to the interior of the building. The exact methodology of that is what I cannot attest to.
You don't.
So
okay,
is that something like an oily waste separator that would be inside the building and therefore a building code?
So if it's inside the building, yes. If I think the oil and water separator that Andrew was alluding to would be something that would actually be would be installed underground.
Floor drainage underneath it, yeah.
And that would be something that would be exterior, but it'd almost be equivalent to like a septic tank, right?
Right.
So we wouldn't, and I'm not trying to belabor the point or downput the severity of this, but like, if we didn't know the exact location of a septic tank on here, we wouldn't be going through this exercise, right? We would say, yeah, there's ample area in the front, rear, and side of the building to put this tank. we can satisfy that comment. And I think that's how I am looking at this now, is that if it's interior of the building, yes, it would be building code related. If it ends up being something that gets put exterior, then yeah, there's plenty of room around that building that we can insert this. And I will make sure when we come back for final, if that's the motion that's made tonight, that we have an answer of this is how he intends to capture that any waste. It'll be stored roughly in this location, the building, and here's the methods that are going to be utilized. I'll have those answers for you.
That's what I would have hoped. That's what I believe what would have happened prior to this meeting. And look, I understand it's a preliminary plan and it's not a final plan and it doesn't need to have all of the details. I just think this particular detail, because of what the Environmental Advisory Committee moved on May 20th, it should have that detail, and that detail should have been reviewed by the engineer.
Well, I will say this, we didn't receive that letter.
Okay, yeah,
So I can't
don't
provide
know when
information
those
that wasn't given to us.
Yeah, look, I don't know anything about that. It was in our packet, so we saw it, and
Yeah.
and that's why we're mentioning it.
And here's the other thing I'll add. If you make it a condition that we have to satisfy that, and let's just say nuclear option, there's nowhere to put that tank, which I believe there is, obviously, I just attested to that, but nuclear option, there's nowhere to put it. Well, now we can't meet the conditions, we gotta come back for preliminary anyhow, because we're not meeting the preliminary conditions. So that's the other aspect of what happens if you grant preliminary or make a recommendation of preliminary and we can't meet these requirements. We're back here for preliminary, which is the same thing as if you tabled it tonight.
I just want to say, there's a lot of discussion about that EAC comment, but it sounded like what I heard from the planning commission, like you want to see the detail of what's being collected for the stuff that's being worked on the interior of the building, and you want to see what they're going to do to assure that the vehicles that are waiting to be serviced, that are in disrepair, sitting in the lot or coming in the lot, that there's some protection for collection of that oil also. I just want to point that out, so when you talk about it, like, because the EAC letter is not very detailed about that, but you guys all brought that up.
What specifically I'd like to see
versus exterior.
is the township engineer's opinion on the plans. And look, I understand you don't know where you can put the tank, but where on the property you can put the tank is, I think, less material than we're going to have a tank and we're going to have this oil separator and this, and township engineer, are you satisfied that this will protect the water table and the river in Lower Saucon? And then if the township engineer gives us that opinion, then, I personally would be satisfied with that, because that analysis was performed and the township engineer has the expertise to, tell me that's okay. Like, I don't know.
I'm not here to design. I'm here to voice my concerns of what I see that could happen. And I just want to make sure those mechanisms are thoughtfully put into the final that I can see and be satisfied with.
Yep, and I understand
And I'm
that.
allowed to do that, and that,
Make a motion, whatever.
and it's all
I know.
worked out.
So my recommendation is, at this point, I think we've discussed this as much as we're gonna discuss it. So either we have a consensus and somebody makes a motion that we table, or somebody makes a motion that we proceed with conditions. And I leave that to you.
I'm gonna make a motion to move forward with the conditions.
Okay, and those conditions,
Those conditions are,
you want me to help?
yes,
Those conditions would be subject to the engineer's letter dated October 17, 2025, entitled Preliminary Land Development Plan Review, conditioned on meeting the concepts set forth in the EAC May 13, 2025 meeting, subject to the satisfaction of township staff and the engineer, and subject to full and separate review at the time of final plan by the Township Planning Commission, subject to obtaining zoning approvals as directed and requested by Township Solicitor and the Township Zoning Officer, and subject to all third-party approvals, including the LVPC. and if you wanted to add anything else.
I think
Are we
that's,
adding dot as well?
what's that?
PA dot as well?
That would be a third party, yes, third party approval.
Party, okay. And what are we voting on all the deferments that they're, yeah, but what do we want to do about all the deferments they were asking? Deferments on the,
On the curbs,
Not-
the sidewalk?
curbs, sidewalks, not matching the driveways with the across
waivers.
property, all of that.
Normally you would do a separate motion for the waivers. That's how we always do that, correct?
So do we want to vote on the waivers now, or do we want to vote when, with the final?
Let's do this one first.
Yeah.
And then perhaps we can add in subject to the waivers, which we'll address later. Motion. So then that way, there's no confusion that that got tossed along.
Did you want to require that for vegetative screening on the 378 side of the dumpster?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
yep. Thank you.
Did you catch that one?
Yep. Okay.
So that's your motion. Now we need a second.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays? One nay.
I think the mechanisms are in place. It's just, it's making sure that they are in place and that all agencies, we don't have the Conservation District here who are been through it for a year with, and how they are. I just want to make sure that it is, you're right next to a water area. That's all I want to say.
Do you want to make clear about the exterior collection of petrol and the interior collection of petrol, like getting that
But I think
clarification?
it will be done. I just want to know
So,
that.
so just where we are, what you've done is this, your motion says, that you've passed, says they have to meet the concept of the AC.
Yep.
They have to meet it to the satisfaction of the staff and the engineer, and is subject to coming back when you receive final plan approval, so it's very specific.
Very specific.
So theoretically, they could go and say, it's okay with the staff, it's okay with the engineer, you still have another look at it and say, that's great, Andrew, Steve, you guys like it, I don't like it.
Correct.
So I think you're covered.
Yes.
And that's understood by the applicant, correct?
That is understood.
Very good. Then I think we can move to the waiver requests. Polly, would you mind getting that on the screen? Is that okay? So we're all looking at the same thing.
We do each one individually?
You can do it whatever way you want. You can do it individually or all together. If you are inclined with regard to the curbs and sidewalks to not grant that waiver, but consider it a deferral instead, you could do that.
I don't think we'd ever see sidewalks out there, but I'd be okay with the deferral in the future if it's required. If any development of sidewalks along 378 are done.
And normally the way you see deferrals identified is it's a deferral until the township requires it. And you just leave it at that, rather than saying a condition of A, B, and C, because no one knows where the future
It's
holds.
only if the township requires it.
I agree.
Agreed.
Makes sense.
So then, if someone is inclined to make a motion to grant the waivers, specifically the waiver of section 145-33C1 and 2, and then a separate waiver for section 137-23.K.3, and then a deferral of section 145-45B2 until the township requests
Curbs and sidewalks.
the curbs and sidewalks. Someone could make that motion.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make it.
Second? We have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
All right, thank you guys.
We're finished.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right.
Sorry, I should have brought up my neighbor.
Yeah.
I will just say from my perspective as a council member, it warms my heart greatly to see all of you debating and discussing and talking about the requests and going over it and providing your independent opinions about it. I just love that. So thank you.
My opinions matter to the ones who are going to be affected.
And now your opinions on record.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
I appreciate the discussion.
You're welcome.
Very good presentation.
Yeah.
All right, have a good night.
You as well.
Couple of months.
So now we have approval of the minutes from July. That's how long ago it's been. July 24th. Anybody want a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes from July 24th.
Second?
I think we need more trees in a hole, but yeah, approve.
All right, so then all those in favor?
Yay, aye.
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 Any nays? Okay. Next item will be public comments. We don't have any, so we now are free to adjourn.
Just give, because we have one planning commission member that I think would love to hear about the Swint update.
What?
Sure. No, we're done with the meeting. Swint is one of the property that's, I'm not sure how to, it's been a problem property, on Apple Butter Road forever and ever. It's across from the Red Barn. It's the trash area where with the fence and so on.
They have a lot of stuff in their yard.
They have a lot of stuff